All right, this is a short little program showing something about the enhanced for loop, which you may have seen before, maybe not. Pretty simple idea. Okay, so if we have an array, let's say of doubles, and we want to print out the array. So we'll call a method here print, which I have written right here, which takes an array of doubles and simply has a for loop starting at index 0 for int I equals 0, going until but not including array.length. And for each value of I, we do array at index I and then a space. So this is a pretty typical thing to do. And this is, we're using a for loop, but there is a more enhanced way to do it. We can use an enhanced for loop. So instead of doing this, we can equivalently do this and here's how to read this. Here's how to read this. For each double element in our ARR, system.out.print, the element plus a space. Again, for each double element in ARR, print out the element and a space. Okay, so basically what this is it's saying go through the array one item at a time. And for each element, use this temporary variable element to refer to that element and print out that element. So instead of dealing with indexes, we're just dealing with elements, right? So it sort of simplifies. We don't have to deal with indexes. We don't have to make sure to set I to be 0, from 0, I less than array.length. We don't have to deal with I at all. That all gets taken care of behind the scenes. Okay, so let me just show you what this is equivalent to. Okay, so this for loop here, this enhanced for loop is equivalent to saying for int I equals 0, I is less than array.length, I plus plus, and then I'll say double element is assigned array at index I, and then system.out.print element plus a space. Okay, so this is really what's going on here. Behind the scenes, there's this indexes, and we're taking care of all that, but we don't need to do all that. We don't need to do that. We can just use the enhanced for loop to do it. So let's just test this program so far. So Java C program3.java. Right, so far we created an array and we sent it to this method. Actually, let me comment out these 2 lines for now. Let me recompile. Okay, and let's run it. Java program 3. Okay, so we see the elements printed out separated by spaces, right? So again, each element is getting printed out. Okay, from the in order from the first element, then the second, and the third, and the fourth. Okay, so let's try to do something more with enhanced for loops. So here we have a method named increment. It gets an array of doubles and it goes through the array and it increments every element. It makes every element go up by 1. It adds 1 to the value of each element. Right? So for each double element in the array, does element plus plus. Now the question is, will this have any effect? So let me comment out this one. So here again, we're using an enhanced for loop. I say it doesn't work, but let me show you that it doesn't work. So after we call the increment method, we again call the print method to print out the array again. So actually, I think I need to do a print line here at the end. Let me put a print line here. Okay, Now let me recompile. Oops. Java C. Right, Java program 3. Okay, so we see nothing happened. The array, the elements of the array were not incremented, right? So this didn't work. Okay, now let's try using a regular for loop. Let's comment out this. Actually, we can keep it here, but I can keep it here because it has no effect. But let's go now and use a regular for loop. For and I equals 0, I is an array.length, I plus plus. And then we take each element, array at index I, and do plus plus. Okay, and then so main calls the increment method, and then it prints out the result. So let's see, recompile. And rerun. Okay, so we see that we have the same, we have the arrays, the array has been incremented. Here we see the original array on the first line of output, and then on the second line of output, we see the incremented array. So that's good. So, but why didn't the enhanced for loop work here? It works for printing out the array, so why didn't it work here? Sorry, it worked for printing out here, but why didn't it work here? So again, the answer is similar to what we said before, right? So when we say for double element in ARR, whatever, do stuff like, element plus plus, that's equivalent to saying for and I equals 0, I is less than array.length, I plus plus, double element equals array at index I, and then do stuff with elements. So let's say I say element plus plus, right? So if I say here, element plus plus, right? So doing in this for loop here, what do? I have this separate variable element, which I make it to be a copy of the element in the array, and then I modify this this copy. Well, that has no effect on the element that is actually in the array. So this is what's happening here with an enhanced for loop, right? This enhanced for loop that we wrote here, this enhanced for loop is equivalent to saying this, but that has no effect on the original array. Okay, so the bottom line is that enhanced for loop is a very useful feature, but it can only be used to read from the array. It can't be used to modify the elements of the array. So we cannot use an enhanced for loop when we want to do any of these three things. If we want to assign new values to the elements, like in the increment method where we want to assign a new value to each element, that can't be done using an enhanced for loop. Okay. Another case where we can't use an enhanced for loop is in a case where we specifically want to operate with the indexes. There are certain examples, where, let's say, whatever, there are certain applications where we want to specifically work with indexes, not just the elements. We care about the indexes. So then we can't use an enhanced for loop, because with an enhanced for loop, the indexes are hidden from us, right? We're just dealing with the elements themselves. So in a case where we want to use the indexes, an enhanced for loop would not be good. Another situation where enhanced for loop would not be good, would not work, is where we want to access only part of the array, right? So an enhanced for loop always accesses the entire array, first the first element, then the second element, and the third element, but it always goes through the entire array from beginning to end. But in certain cases, I only want to perhaps access first half of the array, or maybe the middle of the array or something, right? So in a case like that, enhanced for loop would not be appropriate, because enhanced for loop always goes through the entire array from beginning to end. But in many cases where we just want to access all the elements of the array without modifying them, enhanced for loop is very nice, and we'll use it a lot in the future.